What's up? What's up? It's your boy ROD, and we are back with another episode of Rod Watched It, where we will be taking slight, deep analyzations and having very good conversations about the media that we choose to consume visually. Today, we'll be talking about a few different movies. Today's topic is going to be a part 2 to the first episode that is already out on Apple Podcasts and other platforms. That episode was 2025 Faves Part 1. This will obviously be 2025 Faves Part 2. The first set of movies, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was really a test run to see how confident I felt to talk into a microphone and actually release it, and if I was going to release it, and I did. So I'm going to follow up with the same confidence. With that being said, I do want to say that the first movies on that list, besides Sinners, were just a couple movies that stuck out to me. Nothing that really stuck with me. The nuances in them did stick out to me and stuff like that. However, I was just really doing a test run. My favorite movie out of that entire list was Sinners. I just wanted to do a little test run to see if I would actually rock with that first episode. And since I already put it out, it is what it is. If y'all like it, let me know. If you didn't, or if you have any comments about it or you think I could do better, please let me know. And with that being said, we are going to be heading into our first movie. Really quick though, I do want to say that this next set of movies, I believe, are a strong set of movies, if not some 2025 bangers. And I know bangers.
I know bangers.
So these are some 2025 bangers. If you have not watched them yet, please go check them out. I think you'll enjoy them. They'll probably have you crying, a little trauma behind it, and you'll also be like, what the fuck was that? But nonetheless, you will enjoy these movies. So with that being said, let's head into our first topic, which is Begonia. Begonia is about these two men decide to kidnap this medicine pharmaceutical mogul and keep her hostage in their basement. As they're keeping her hostage, they start to embark on this back and forth mind game between woman and the two men who kidnapped her. As they're going throughout this mind game, it's like the men are trying to prove, we know you're an alien because of this, and we want you to take us to your motherboard. And the lady is like, I'm not an alien, and I don't understand how y'all can think that I am an alien. It gets to a point where she has been with them so long that now the police have been looking for her. As the police start to circle in on the men, not more so actually circle in as if they have evidence, just kind of like a hunch, essentially, that this woman could have been around these men. As the police start to circle in, she starts to get step up her mind game a little bit more. So basically what she does is she convinces one of the cousins that the other cousin who they are helping is so far gone with this kidnapping shit that it's too late for you. And boom, he kills himself. The other cousin, she knows that his mom is in the hospital because she is over the company who was doing tests on his mom and trial runs and different things of that nature. So the man kind of blames the woman for his mother being sick still after she has run those tests. So to the public eye, it might seem like, oh, he's kidnapping her because of this, but he has convinced himself that he's kidnapping her because she's an alien, and she's trying to convince him that he's not. She convinces him at this point that, listen, I might not be able to help you get out of the situation, but I can help your mom. And she tells him there is medicine that we have not registered to the FDA, I believe, or whatever, wherever doctors got to register their medicine. FCC, FDA, whatever. So she's like, there's medicine that is unregistered that we're doing tests on in my trunk in a antifreeze bottle. All you have to do is go take this medicine to your mom and put this medicine in her, essentially, and she'll get better. This dumbass does it. He goes and takes the medicine to his mom. He puts the antifreeze in it and his mom dies. By the time he gets back, he's even more angry because he's like, why the fuck would you have me do this when you know that it would kill my mom? She's like, I didn't think that you would get that far, because who the fuck is gonna let somebody walk in the hospital sweating all hard with a fucking antifreeze bottle? Who will let you get that far? But you did it. And you did it, and you can't take it back. So now he's really mad. So he's taking her to her office so that she can take the both of them to the motherboard that he still believes exists. At this point, she's already enacted her plan of escaping. She's like, I got one out the way. I have this dumbass on the hook for murder because he just killed his mom. And now we're in public. Not only are we in public, we're at my office, my space, where people know me as the boss. And they haven't seen me in almost 2 or 3 weeks because they know that I've been missing and they see me walking with this dumbass. Somebody's gonna help, right? You would think. And that's kind of what happens. It's essentially, that's kind of what happens, but not really. Nobody really helps because everybody's kind of scared to step into the room because they seen that he had a bomb strapped to his chest. So after they're a little back and forth with that. So after he reveals the bomb strapped to his chest, she has basically everyone in her office in a panic. She has convinced him that if he steps inside her coat closet, that is where she goes to transfer herself to the motherboard ship. Crazy, right? All this shit sound crazy. You be like, what the fuck? You feel me? So in my mind, or to the public eye, it may seem she's doing this to get out of the situation because she's tired of being held captive. Perfect, because that's what I thought too. So I'm like, okay, cool. She's doing this so that she can give herself some maneuver room to get out of the office. No, she blows this nigga up. She blows this nigga up, like literally blows him up. Like the bomb that strapped to his chest, I thought was fake, was actually real. She blows this nigga up. Okay, cool. So now that he's blown up and the other guy is dead and the mom is dead, she's scot free, right? She's safe. Everything is fine. Everything is perfectly fine, right? No, and wrong answer. What happens after this is she goes back to that same closet where this man just blew up and the head hit her head, knocked her ass out. She goes back into this closet and actually transports to a mothership and actually goes and talks to an alien because she actually was an alien. That shit is crazy to me. So this entire time that this man was calling her an alien and all of those things, and he had all this evidence that she was an alien, and she was basically saying, you're wrong. He was right the entire time. I just think it's weird that that's how the movie ended, but I feel like that's a great ending to the movie because it just throws you for a loop again. It's like kind of like a plot twist, but not really a plot twist because that's been the plot the entire time. That's why I think that shit is so good. The acting was done really well in my opinion, especially considering the fact that Emma Stone had me totally convinced that she was not an alien. She really made it seem like these were two fucking losers who basically had ingested so much processed food that their brains had warped to become mush. That's what I truly believe from the way this lady was acting about these men calling her aliens. And she was just like so over the bullshit the entire movie that I was like, I feel you. I feel you. Me as someone who's not an alien, sitting in my black skin and my black body, I feel you. Because what the fuck are y'all doing holding me in this basement and I'm not a damn alien? That would make me so mad. So I feel like that the acting from her was really good. The acting from Jesse Plemons was also really good because the layers that you had to peel back for his character was amazing because it went from conspiracy theorist to angry son to mourning son to angry son to conspiracy theorist to killer to maniac. Like there were so many different levels that you had to like peel back for his character. And I feel like for someone who showed it really well, I feel like he did the work to actually make sure that the layers were understood on his part, which is what I said before. And a lot of actors don't do that anymore. So I do feel like Jesse Plemons did a great job of making sure he knew his character. I think he did a great job making sure that he knew his character. The other characters also were they were like background characters besides the other cousin. And even him, the other cousin played by Aiden Delbus, his name is Don. The name of the character is Don. Even him, he did a good job at his character because it would seem like he was slightly mentally challenged and letting his cousin take over his life, and that's not something that he wanted to do. You could tell throughout the entire movie that his cousin had him doing stuff that he did not want to do, and the only way he released himself of that is by offing himself. So it's just different layers to these characters that I think were really peeled back by the actor, and I appreciate that personally. I believe that the nuances of this movie is that you have to live your own life in some way, somehow, some shape, some form. Everybody in this movie, their life was being controlled by the next person, even if they didn't realize it. For example, the cousin who was helping his cousin kidnap this woman, his life was being controlled by his cousin. Even from the beginning of the movie and them working out, his cousin telling him what to do in that manner, his life was being controlled by his cousin. The cousin who led the kidnapping, his life was being controlled by his mom, who was in the hospital and couldn't do anything. And the fact of the matter is, since his mom could not do anything and he was grieving his mom out loud, that controlled his emotions to the point where he decided that he had to kidnap this woman. The woman, her life was being controlled by her business. And when her life went from being controlled by her business, it went from being controlled by the men who kidnapped her, you know? So essentially all she's ever done was work and be kidnapped. Now, prior to knowing she was an alien, that doesn't seem like a life you would want to live. But now that we know that she's an alien, of course that's a life that you want to live because that's what you're sent here to do. Now, when it comes to the ending, I do believe the ending was, I would give it maybe a 8.679, something along that line, just because of how action packed it was to an extent. Because it went from the cousin Don, who was helping his cousin Teddy. It went from Don being shot to Teddy shooting police to Teddy's head knocking out the lady who they kidnapped. The whole entire office being involved, to the police being involved, to the woman having to run back into the office under the guise of she needs this from that, and da 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 da, and then having to find out that she's an alien. I think it all boiled down so fast, so perfectly. So I do think the ending was really good. So that's why I'll probably give it an 8.679. I would definitely recommend it for it to watch. By the way, it's a comedy, sci-fi thriller. So it's not supposed to be scary. So just to let everybody know, because everybody know I love me a good scary movie. It's not supposed to be a scary movie. It's supposed to be a comedy sci-fi thriller, and that's exactly what it was. Because it honestly did keep me on the edge of my seat and like kind of had my attention the entire time. Even the dialogue was like chef's kiss, because it was like, now we're getting somewhere. Now we understand why everything is happening the way that it's happening. So, Begonia is a recommendation from your boy, ROD. All right, this next movie is a movie that I personally really am a fan of because I enjoyed the first movie that it's attached to. This movie is The Black Phone 2. The Grabber is back. So if you haven't seen The Black Phone, it's about a kidnapper named The Grabber who kidnaps this young boy and holds him hostage, and the young boy's sister, who has psychic powers, saves the day, essentially. Well, the Grabber is back, the brother is back, the sister is back, the powers are back, and even stronger. And all in all, what happens is the sister has powers now. Her powers are so much stronger. Her dreams are so much stronger. She's so much more connected to her mom. So she sees young boys being killed firsthand in her dreams, and she's receiving calls from her mom in her dreams as well. So she's talking to her mom, and she's talking to the Grabber's very first round of victims when he first started killing. Ironically, the mom worked at the camp the killer, the Grabber, started killing at. So the mom knows about the killings of the first round of boys because, as for mentioned, she worked at the same camp as the Grabber. So basically what happens is the brother and the sister go to the same camp that the mom used to work at to try to get some background on the Grabber and why he is essentially terrorizing the brother and the sister. I'm not gonna say in their dreams. In the sister's dreams, he's terrorizing her, but the brother just has PTSD, so he sees the Grabber everywhere. So, since the sister can't get over her dreams, her and the brother go to the camp where the Grabber first did his killings, and they start to do some deep diving there. As they are there, the dreams get stronger, and the presence of the Grabber is actually felt in the physical realm. So he's basically beating the shit out of the sister the entire movie. He's fucking up the brother's mental state the entire movie, and they're trying to find a way that they can finally kill him and make the connection clear to everybody that the Grabber and the person who did these killings back in the day are the same person. The movie ends with the Grabber being killed by Finn, which is the boy from the first movie again, and by his first three victims. Right? Me saying this as plain as this doesn't sound as good as the movie actually is, but the movie is amazing. If you love horror movies, this movie is amazing because we see the Grabber actually get physical. And I don't mean like we're physical, like touch people and all that kind of shit. Like we actually see him get physical with the characters that are alive and not just killing little boys. We see him attack dads, other background characters that are in the movie. We see him attack these people, but my favorite part of it all is how he's invisible to them but not to the sister. So he's attacking them and they can't see because he's dead, but he's not dead in the spiritual realm. He's dead in the physical realm. So he can really attack them in the spiritual realm and then to transfer over to the physical realm. Who does that sound like to y'all? Who does that sound like to y'all? That sounds like my boy Freddy Krueger. They was biting off Freddy in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise so bad in this movie, but I think that's why I like it because Freddy was a shit talking, funny ass. He was a funny ass killer. Like he was a funny ass. He's probably the funniest OG slasher because you don't see somebody talk shit like that. You see the grabber talk shit though. So the grabber talk shit, he gets physical and he's like really strong. So I feel like those three things are so Freddy Krueger coded that watching this movie, I'm just like, am I watching Nightmare on Elm Street or am I watching The Black Phone 2? But the movie is still good though. So the plot points are what make this movie strong to me because you have the brother who is still reeling from being kidnapped so many years ago and has anger issues. You have the once drunk dad, super sober and sorry to his kids. So he really is like essentially pandering, but not really pandering to them. You have the daughter who is the sidekick of it all, and she is pushing the movie forward. I like how the Black Phone itself jumps from being about the boy to being about the kid. So to being about the girl. So it makes it about the kids in general, and I really do enjoy that. But yeah, you see how they integrate the mom into the story. And if you go watch the movie, you'll see how they integrate the mom into the story, and it'll make it so much more impactful and emotional because in the first film, you see how the mom being gone was so impactful in the first film that when you see what happens to her in the second film, you're gonna see how warped and twisted and how connected the grabber has been to this entire family this entire time. You're gonna see all of that happening and it's gonna be like, damn. Like when I watched The Black Phone 2 for the first time and I was thinking about it, I'm like, damn. So I like talking about layers. They had to peel back the layers of the story so it can get so deep. And I actually enjoyed that because sometimes movie franchises they don't do well by connecting the movies together. And I feel like with the mom arc specifically, it connected the Black Phone 1 and the Black Phone 2 movies together and it cemented it. And I feel like that's what a lot of franchises can't be missing on. And the only thing that will ruin this franchise for me right now is if they made a sequel, not a prequel. If they made a sequel to Black Phone 2 and a Black Phone 3 episode, like a Black Phone 3 movie, and it's not a prequel, that will ruin it for me because close this chapter. Don't open up another chapter. Close this chapter. If you want to talk about it some more, go back into the day. Go back to previously. All in all, the Black Phone 2, I would give it like an 8.9, 8.7, maybe an 8.4, just because it bit off Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise so much for me that it was kind of like, I don't know, I gotta dock some points for that. I gotta dock some points for that. So the Black Phone 2 is definitely a recommendation of mine. Please go watch it. Your boy ROD has stamped it. All right, and the next movie that we're gonna be talking about is The Long Walk. The Long Walk is a dystopian film set in the 1970s post-Civil War era United States. In this alternate universe, the United States is under a totalitarian regime. Now, part of that regime is an annual event for young men called the Long Walk. The Long Walk is quite literally what it says. It's a long ass walk. Basically, young men gather and they put their bodies on the line and sign up for a walk. Part of this walk is you walk until you're the last person standing. Your heartbeat can't go below 3 miles an hour. So those two things, keep that in mind. One of the young men, basically who the story is set around, his name is Ray Garrity. Ray Garrity's father was killed by the Major, and the Major is the man who is running the Long Walk. So Ray Garrity's father was killed by the Major. The Major runs the Long Walk. Ray signed up for the Long Walk because at the end of the Long Walk, you get whatever you want in the entire world. His goal is to win the Long Walk and kill the Major. While he's doing the Long Walk, however, he starts to meet different young men from all over the world. Now, these young men all have different goals for what they want to do with their riches. Some want women, some just want the money, some want to be out of poverty, some want to take care of their family, some want to go to space. Some it's just all over. Like everybody just wants different things. And throughout this long walk, their bodies start to take a toll on them. For example, one young man at the beginning of the walk, he talked about how his ankle was really bothering him. Towards the end of the walk, he was walking on his ankle and his ankle was bloodied. His foot was basically broke. He couldn't do anything but keep walking. Because once you start walking once your heart rate reaches under 3 miles for 10 seconds, you get 3 warnings or you can get shot. Right? So it's supposed to boost morale in the country, but you watch a man get shot on national television. It's really like Hunger Games-esque. So as they go throughout this walk, their bodies start to take a toll on them because you can only walk for so long before your body starts to shut down. So the boy with his ankle, another boy essentially dies and continues walking to the point where he goes manic. His bowels have released themselves. He can't respond. He can't talk. He's literally just a walking corpse at this point. And you just see the breakdown of these men who kind of built this bond with each other, and you see how it takes a toll on them, and they see how it takes a toll on each other. So I guess the craziest part about the movie is just to watch the breakdown happen before your very eyes, right? And the movie ends with two people basically holding on to each other and trying to get the next person to win. So Ray has a newfound friend. His name is Pete, number 23. Ray and Pete have basically kept each other alive this entire time because it's been times where Pete almost dropped off, and there's been time where Garrett almost dropped off, which is Ray. There's been time where Ray almost dropped off. So basically, this is how the movie ends. Pete falls. Ray picks him up and tells him to continue. Ray then tells Pete, "I tie my shoe." Pete continues walking. Ray stops and sacrifices himself so that Pete can continue walking and win. Pete wins when he realizes the gunshot that killed Ray. Now that Pete wins, Pete turns around and shoots the mayor. Now, the plot overall, it would seem like it's not a strong plot, but the actors give the movie so much more when it comes to the plot because it really shows you how we are all essentially in this shit together. Now, I feel like that's one of the main nuances of the movie as well, is the fact that we're all in this together because throughout the entirety of the long walk, there were different type of men all over. Like there were different type of men. So you had white men, black men, some who like they could have been African, you had Hispanic, you had Native Americans, you had Indians, you had straight, you had gay. Like these were men from all over and all different types of walks of life. So I think the main nuance with that aspect of the movie is how essentially the long walk is what the United States should be, and the major is the government. I'm not even gonna lie to you. The major is the government, and the long walk is the United States. And basically, what's happening is the major is putting these people through this strenuous activity, which is walking, and for regular people, it's living. So the major is putting these people through this strenuous activity so that they can break down and go against each other. And the major, he is relying on that breakdown because to him, it shows they can spin the narrative. The major and the government can spin the narrative that these men died for patriotism and other things of that nature. When in reality, they died for nothing because most of them died with nothing. Out of all the men that actually signed up, the only person who actually won something was the person, Pete. He's the only person that won something, and whatever he won, he sacrificed by killing the major. So the nuance to me of the overall movie would be the idea that the long walk itself is like the United States citizens. The idea of walking is the idea of living, and the idea of the major putting these people through the strenuous activity is the idea that the government is putting U.S. citizens through the strenuous activity of living everyday lives, making it harder for us than it needs to be, and sticking together through it all. I feel like that's truly what the movie was kind of hinting at, but the movie so self is so sad that even me making the connection of this movie or the comparison of this movie to the United States government and to real life just signifies the sad times that we're living in. Sorry to make this political, but I'm not really sorry because this is life. this is life. So I feel like this movie is just kind of putting a mirror in our face, and we're so gung-ho about media just leaving it at media that we don't even see sometimes that that's what it is, or we are extremely desensitized to the messages that we receive, even if we get it. Overall, I would definitely rate this movie, I would say a 9.3. This is one of those movies where I would probably watch it once, maybe once more, maybe twice at most, and overall twice at most. Watch it twice overall, because it's one of the movies where I really just can't sit back and watch and enjoy. There wasn't too many funny moments, you could say, because even the funny moments had that dark undertone of this is still divided. But yeah, I would give it a 9.3. If you haven't watched A Long Walk, please go watch it. Definitely a recommendation from your boy, ROD. Alrighty. On to the next movie. This is the last movie that I'm gonna do, because I know you're probably tired of hearing me talk about movies. So, this is the last movie that I'm gonna do. This is gonna be the last movie of my faves of 2025. I do have more faves of 2025, but this is gonna be the last that I'm gonna talk about on this podcast. Just because I think it's time for us to move on to different topics. I don't want to be stuck in the past all day. Yeah. With that being said, let's move on. The next movie that I'm going to talk about is Together. Together is one of those movies for me where there's nothing really weird about it besides the fact that the two main characters are a couple in real life. All right. So keep that in mind. But basically, what Together is about, this codependent couple who essentially fucking hate each other, but they can't get enough of each other, right? And I feel like we've probably all experienced a type of relationship where it's like that, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a real relationship between you and somebody who you're emotionally involved with, you know, whether it's with something and not a person. We all have that thing where we like are codependent upon it. So the movie takes a dive into that when it comes to relationship. What happens in the movie is this couple goes to work on their relationship at this new house that they're moving into, because I believe the girlfriend ends up getting a new job, and they end up providing them with a new house that they can move into and live in. Cool. From that, everything would seem fine. They go hiking, however, and while they're on the hike, they fall into this hole. This hole leads to essentially like a church worship chapel in that hole. Down in that hole, that's where this church worship chapel thing is. And to them, it's like, okay, this is kind of weird, but they can't get out right now. So they say, fuck it, we're gonna sleep here. I know. Yeah, they are. Uh, so what they say is, we're gonna sleep here, and in the morning, we're going to, head back and make sure, everything's gonna be straight. So they say, we're gonna sleep here, and then we're gonna head back in the morning. One of them drinks some water from this hole, right? This hole they fell in, there's like a little pond type of deal in that hole, and they drink the water from that hole. When they wake up, their skin on their legs are stuck together, and it's so painful for them to pull it apart, but of course they have to, because that's what you got to do. All right. That doesn't raise any bells in their head. They go on about their day. They go on about their life. The boyfriend, who is the person who drank the water, he becomes kind of, I'm not going to say obsessed, because it's not really an obsession, but it's more so like he can't live without her being in his vicinity. So he needs her to stay alive and to stay well. And when they're away from each other for too long, he starts to feel sick. So it gets to the point where he starts showing up at her job. And this is something else that starts to take a toll on their relationship, because she, being someone who didn't drink the water, has no specific attachment to him. He has it to her until they have sex. And then once they have sex, that attachment is put on from her to him. So now it's a mutual attachment that they can't get away from each other. They can't stay away from each other. And their bodies are literally pulling them towards each other. They can't help it. So it gets to the point where this is taking a toll on their relationship, and they truly feel like that they have to separate, and they break up, but they don't leave from each other in the house. They wake up and their bodies are naturally pulling them towards each other. And it's honestly one of the craziest things I've ever seen on film. So if you haven't watched it, please go watch it. But their bodies are pulling them towards each other. And it's at this point that they both realize that there's something wrong. And whatever is wrong, they can't control it. So they have to get help. And the girlfriend goes to her boss to get help. Why the hell the boss revealed to her that he has experienced the same thing, and don't fight it, because if you fight it, it's only going to make it worse. And he reveals to her that he himself is a result of two people being merged together. Y'all, that shit was crazy to see. When she rushes home, her and her boyfriend basically come to the decision that they can't fight it, and they let it happen. They merge together, they become one, and the movie ends with them as one person opening the door for her parents, which is probably going to be hard to explain, but whatever. So all in all, the acting, in my opinion, I would give the acting maybe like a 7.8 or something along that line. Just because I feel like it's not nothing that we've seen too far off from Dave Franco. Dave Franco, to me, he's a good actor, but he is kind of playing the same person in every role he plays, or he has this thing where he brings his own characteristics to life so much with these characters that all the characters can sometimes blend into one. And that's where I'm at with him in this movie. I feel like he just like this is another character for Dave Franco. This is another character that Dave Franco plays. It's not a standalone character. The girlfriend, which is his wife in real life, I think she does a good job though. I think she does a really good job at showing how trying can only get so far with someone, and being fed up, but also still wanting them can be so emotionally tolling. I do feel like she did a great job at showing how emotionally tolling that can be. Overall, between them two, the acting it was pretty good. It was decent. It was decent. Come from a Chicago person, decent is okay. And this might sound crazy, but the ending overall, like I said, this might sound crazy, but it puts me in the mind of the ending that happened in The Substance. And if you ever watched The Substance, you know how that ending was. I think that ending and this ending are similar in the sense of how the physicality of it all, and once it's on that like last couple seconds of the movie, how everything that you just watched happen physically boils down to this, and this is it. It's kind of like, damn. And I think that's why I enjoy it together, because the idea of codependency and the physicality of the movie itself, I think that's what made me like this movie a lot. So overall, I'll rate this movie maybe like a 8.5. Another recommendation from your boy. So if you haven't, go watch it, please. All right, and last but not least, for sure, is my favorite television show to drop in 2025. And that show is telling y'all, Welcome to Derry is a hit. Oh my mama. Welcome to Derry is a hit. Welcome to Derry is my favorite show to drop in 2025. And considering the fact that I love horror, it's very on brand for me. But the show itself, crazy, bro. Crazy. First of all, I just want to say that on Twitter, it's so funny. Well, on Twitter and TikTok, this show is being hailed as a black show, even though the show is not strictly only about black people. But the things in this show are so black coded. You have to give credit where it's due. You have to give credit where it's due. So basically, Welcome to Derry follows Pennywise in Derry again. It's a prequel to the first two movies. So if you know about Stephen King's universe, specifically with Pennywise. Pennywise strikes in four major timelines. Well, five major timelines. 1908, 1935, 1962. Yeah, 1962. And then 1989. And then 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So, following that timeline, Welcome to Derry season 1 is set in the 1962 timeline, where it is in his civil rights bag. No, I'm just kidding. It is in Derry in 1962. Now, the time and the setting plays a huge part because, of course, that's during the height of the civil rights movement or around that time. Pennywise picks his new group of losers to torment. And I'm not gonna lie, this 1962 clique gave his ass the work. I'm not even gonna lie to you. They was really doing his ass in. The name of the losers in this group starts off with Lily, then you got March, you got Will, you got Richie, you got Ronnie, also known as Veronica, and you got Maddie and Teddy. Throughout the season, there are people dying left and right. I think my favorite part of the seasons are when you get the background history from Pennywise. Bill Skarsgård does a really good job at Pennywise. I think him being so tall plays a factor into that because when you see him tall as fuck like that, it's kind of like, dude, you gotta back up. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You're really close. Like, what the fuck? And then he does this thing with his eye where it's like a Roman eye while drooling. Yo, that shit be so scary to me. Honestly, truly, I'm not scared of a lot of shit anymore, but watching this show, there were some things that were getting me, and I'm like, damn, how is this getting me right now? And I've literally watched so much scary shit. But it's like when you can wake up that monster inside the way that Bill Skarsgård does with Pennywise, you have to respect it. And it works. It works really well. So the season follows these kids who have essentially what is known as the Shining, and Pennywise is terrorizing them. The only people that can stop them, well, the only people that can stop Pennywise are them and the black man in the army, who also sees Pennywise himself. The government also is trying to find these pillars essentially that Native Americans left to keep Pennywise enclosed in his cage. The government is trying to find these pillars to use these pillars for whatever reason they want to use them for. Essentially, one of the men in the government knows that Pennywise exists because Pennywise almost kills him. And he knows that these pillars keep Pennywise inside this gate, this imaginary gate. Once these pillars are moved, he knows that gate is broken and that Pennywise can torment people. And that's kind of what his goal is. And yes, he is. So essentially, what that man who works in the government goal was to release Pennywise into the public and watch him kind of torment people and scare them back into their houses and not have people be so angry at each other in the public. Really stupid, really not smart, but hey, when it comes to the acting, the kids in this show were acting down. Ronnie acting, Rich acting, Will acting, Marge acting, Lily act like they were acting they asses off. I have Roddy Rod don't play about the kids. Roddy Rod don't play about the kids. So when I see my nephews and my nieces crying because of some fuck ass clown and he's ruining their life and they sacrificing themselves for each other, I get angry. It makes me emotional. And the only way that happen is if you have good acting. That's the only way that's gonna happen is if you have good acting. And to see that these kids have so much range at such a young age, it kind of it's pretty hopeful for me, especially someone who is so I ain't gonna say deep, but I do love black TV. I found an appreciation for not only all the kids, but Will and Veronica. I found the appreciation for them and their acting a little bit more deep, you know, because they have to show what unfortunately the other kids could not show, and that is how it was to be black during that time. And not only do they have to show how it feels to be black during that time and dealing with the things that black people dealt with during that time. They have to also show the emotional side of losing their friends while also being haunted themselves. So I feel like the range that they had is amazing. I truly do feel like the range that they show in this season and in this show is crazy, crazy. All the kids, even Rich, down to the scene in the Black Spot episode where he saved Marge, and Marge essentially having to grieve the love of her life that she's basically only acknowledged for the last, what, 4 weeks. It's just so good. It's just so good. And not even the kids though, like the adults in the show are doing their thing as well. Like you have Taylor Page playing Will's mother, and then the man who plays Will's father, I forgot his name. He does a fantastic job. And then you have Dick Halloran, who is another character that appears throughout Stephen King's universe. You have him and his pre The Shining era, which is really cool to see because it shows you how and when and how his shining got stronger. It also shows you how the cool, calm, collected Halloran you see in The Shining is not the same cool, calm, collected Halloran you see in Welcome to Derry. And I like how the characters, more so the actors on this show, once again, they did the homework. They did the work. You can feel the agonizing pain that they feel when they feel the agonizing pain. And considering how much shit Pennywise is putting them through in this show, there's not too many moments where they don't feel agonizing pain, unfortunately. There's not too many moments of that. So, all in all, the show to me is a 10 because you see Pennywise's background, you see the characters' nuances with each other and how kids can bring it to life. You see the racial implications of that time. You see how Pennywise uses racism as a form of feeding himself. And it just goes to show you how truly evil things can be in this world, especially considering the fact how the government and the lieutenant try to get Pennywise out to the public so he can terrorize the public and scare everybody back into their oasis. I'm like, dude, all in all, that's just crazy to say out loud, and that's a crazy concept. That's a crazy concept to think in general. I would definitely, I would definitely rate this show a 10. 10 out of 10. No notes. No notes. And another reason why I'll rate this show a 10 out of 10 is because of how the directors and writers set up Pennywise to be in the know so much. Because even though this show is technically a prequel to the movies that we've seen, which is It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2, Pennywise himself acknowledges the fact that he knows how he dies. He knows what his demise is, and he's going back in time to make sure that his demise doesn't come to fruition because the same people who killed him in the 2000s are the same kids who he attacked in the 80s, are the same kids of the people who he's attacking in the 60s. And I can only assume that the same people who he attacked in the 60s have some sort of connection to the people in the 30s and so forth and so on. But throughout the show, you see the different things that Pennywise does that are just so evil and horrid. And if you read the book, you kind of can visualize it yourself, but to see it come to life on the TV screen, it's just really crazy to see, but it's also so interesting to look at because you finally see what you've always imagined in your head. So, all in all, the show was great. And another recommendation from your boy ROD. If you have not watched It Welcome to Derry, I recommend you watch It Welcome to Derry. It's being hailed as one of the best shows of 2025, if not the best show of 2025. So go tap into that. All right. And with that being said, that wraps up the second episode of Rod Watched It. I hope that y'all enjoyed your boy ROD. I hope that y'all enjoyed yourself. I hope that y'all laughed. Y'all disagree. Y'all agree. Y'all have recommendations. I hope that y'all just enjoyed spending time with me and, talking with me. I eventually would love someone to come up on this podcast and for us to have the conversation in front of each other and bounce back and forth. Pause. Pause. Bounce back and forth off each other's mindset when it comes to movies and television. And there might be things that I missed when I'm watching a movie that you caught, and there might be things that you caught that I missed. So if you see anything or if you hear anything that you feel like I missed, please shoot me a DM, shoot me a message. Just let me know. And you might be the first person to come up on this podcast and let everybody know how you feeling about media these days. Peace, love, and hair grease. I am praying for everything that's going on in this country right now. And y'all tune in next week to see what we are watching.